Welcome to this video. This is round 2 coverage of Tata Steel 2015. And again, 7 games, and I'm going to, well, I'll show them all, but some are more interesting than others, let's say. So let's start right off the bat and go with the world champion Magnus Carlsen with his first white game playing Wesley So from the US. Yeah, Carlsen opens up with c4. Quite, not a big surprise, but not what he usually does. He can play any opening basically, but he's mostly playing e4 recently, also in his match against Aronian. c4, not so much, but of course he has done this before, so it's not a sensation or anything. I was slightly surprised that in this particular move order, Carlsen now didn't take the option to stay within the English opening and play e4 or knight f3, but he actually took this chance to transpose to the, we can almost say transpose to the Nimzo, because that's what everybody plays here on the top level. Yeah, of course, Wesley So is also playing the Nimzo here. And we get a Rubinstein with e3 and knight e2. This is one of the lines that, this line has gotten recent coverage in a couple of books actually. Many repertoire books for white recommend the line. And I think it's mostly due to the fact that, the other lines are simply very, very complex. And this is relatively easy to present. It's not like this is giving white that much. White wants to avoid the double pawn, and he's successful in that. But in the way, or by doing that, he also hampers his development. And we will see that after d5, a3, black drop back. Here you can debate. Bishop d6 is also a move, of course. Takes. Now g3 was played. Yeah, it's a debate here, theoretical debate, what white should do. You can also play knight f4, like this is possible, or can go here. Even stuff like this is possible. There are many moves, but they all share one characteristics. They don't lead to a wide advantage. What you have is, however, a pretty complex position. All pieces are on the board, so kind of the thing that Carlsen likes. It's not a forced a battle of preparation, but just a game. And well, they played a couple of fairly, I think, normal looking moves. And a4 was a bit surprising. I mean, trying to maybe attack the knight, but a5 stopped it. And one issue that I have with this position is I'm not totally sure what white's big plan is now. I mean, if you look at this, a3 and b3, this a4 and b3, this has basically frozen the queen side. It's very difficult for white to get anything on the queen side going. In fact, there's nothing happening there. The only thing that white has left in this position is something like f3 and e4, or e4, breaking in the center, which is not a surprise. White has an extra pawn there, but it will be difficult to realize, and black has a very straightforward plan. He regroups his knight to b4. It takes a while. It all looks very, very normal. But now he starts the regrouping. Note that white had a bad bishop on b2. Carlsen is exchanging that. That's all very good and natural. And now the knight is coming over to a6, looking at this weakened square. And we see that, well, black has no bad piece. And the only thing that really he has to check is, well, is he going to play e4 or not? And if black can make e4, if he can really show that this isn't a big thing to happen, then black is completely fine. And in this game is exactly that what happened. Carlsen actually managed to play, after a while, to play e4 here. But this is mostly leading to mass exchanges. And if we can check that, this is what happened. Wesley So could just trade everything off, and now he centralized the queen. And well, here you can actually debate whether maybe black has something. Probably really not, but it's clear that white has absolutely nothing here. Dropped back with the rook. They actually made a draw relatively quickly, I think. And, somewhere here they flicked in this repetition. Yeah, there is not much happening really. White has a somewhat weak pawn on d4, black one on c6, and it's difficult to avoid the repetition. Black here, okay, black could have taken here on d1, rook takes. But, I mean, are you playing for winners, black? Probably not. So this is a pretty much uneventful game. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I don't like this line very much for white. I think it's a bit, I don't know, unambitious is maybe wrong, but I always feel like black has no problems whatsoever. You have a healthy development, and white only has this e4 idea. I don't know. It's not. I'm not a huge fan of this line, but it really turned out that Carlsen also couldn't do much with it. And then the next game I'm going to show you really briefly is Aronian with white against Giri. Why briefly? Yeah, this is one of those cases where you look at the game and you at first think, wait, this is kind of exciting, what are they doing? And then you check afterwards or read some article on the game or some piece of news that it was all seen before. And yeah, you can look at this. They played a Grünfeld and with queen b3, and Giri plays with knight c6. It's an interesting sideline that black can go for. Main lines are a6 and probably knight a6 as played by Carlsen in the World Championship match. This is an interesting move. It leads to tactical play. It looks interesting at first, but yeah, white black is sacrificing a pawn. Now with c6, he's introducing the idea to play knight takes d5, a tactic. Queen c4 to keep it, and now yet another pawn sacrifice. So this looks really kind of, wow, nice what they're doing here. But it's all well known. It seems that there have been games with it, and it's funny enough, this is a recent game. I have to check this actually in my notes. I forgot who the white player was. Radjabov white against Aronian black, so with reversed colors. All this has been played in Beijing just a couple of weeks ago. So they were basically reproducing this game. And Aronian on the other side, funny enough. Note that if you look at the clock times, that Aronian is playing quickly and Giri as well. So they both were totally aware what's going on. By now black has sacrificed 3 pawns, but he gets this back. It all looks spectacular, but they just reproducing what they know. Bishop takes d5, queen here, castles. We're still, this is all charted waters. Queen d6. And now here in the original game, Aronian being black, he played the move bishop to e6. Yeah, black is 2 pawns down, and the only thing that black is playing for with this all this stuff is a draw, actually. Yeah, you want to simplify, get a pawn back maybe, and then draw the endgame a pawn down, which is kind of unattractive, but what Giri was after here, it seems. Bishop h3, knight f4. Here I got the straight in. Queen d7, queen f4, g3, queen f6. Believe it or not, this is the new move, the first new move on move 23. Queen takes e4 was played in an earlier game by 2 not so well known players, like 2,200 players. Queen f6, yeah. What does it lead to? An endgame, a pawn down. Black gets this b pawn, but we see opposite colored bishops. So there is some, I mean, black definitely has chances to draw, very intact chances to draw. I still don't really know why you play this kind of line as black. You actually even have to suffer a bit. And I don't know. At the end, I really didn't really feel like I should put a huge effort into finding out if white could have gone for more. Black always has, I mean, very active play, and he got 1 pawn back here. Yeah, you can ask why is white playing king h1? It's very difficult to make any headway. You're always tight here. Note Aronian still has tons of time on his clock, simply because he could play very quickly early on. And this was played. White activated his rook. I mean, it's probably a draw all the way, but
check.
The only slightly interesting situation comes at the end.
Check.
Not
check.
Really interesting, but this was the final move. Rook g1 check, king g1, king g3. And I just wanted to briefly mention, because there's a growing amount of people who think that computers will show you the correct evaluation all of the time. This is very often the case, that they give you the correct evaluation. But if you look at this, look this position up here with a computer that does not have a table base. It's very important, of course. If they have a table base, they will play it perfectly and show that this position is a dead draw. But if you give it to any normal engine, you can take whatever you want, Stockfish or Komodo or whatever, Houdini, it will say white's winning. And this is total nonsense, as h5, something like this shows. Yeah. Check. King g7. And black is putting the king on h8 and just draws very comfortable. Yeah, you have the wrong corner. Wait, sorry. The wrong color. This. Yeah, he can actually take the pawn. I'm sorry. This was kind of quick. White should at least try to hold the pawn, but it is, of course, it is still a draw.
Check.
And now black is sitting nicely in the corner, and he will always sacrifice this bishop for the a pawn to make the draw. Pretty simple and straightforward. Still, every engine without a table base says white is winning. Okay, not a very exciting game. Maybe I'm doing it a little bit of injustice, but I really feel no point in checking if this completely artificial game from the computer is that interesting. Okay, let's look at the next game. Jobava, Vachier-Lagrave. Jobava, the guy who lost this very unfortunate king and pawn endgame against Ivanchuk when he offered the rook trade in round 1. Very unfortunate start for him. Let's see what he did today. He played knight e2 here against the Sicilian. Yeah, this is a funny little move. It's actually leading to a transposition to the open Sicilian very often when white plays d4 next. Maybe it's just designed to gain like half a minute on the clock. Yeah, knight c6, knight c3, g6. Yeah, this is an option that black now has. He can enter this opening, the accelerated dragon, without allowing the Maroczy bind, as white has played an early knight c3. What I'm talking about is, if we look at this, there is this opening, the accelerated dragon. And here the main reason why people are not playing that so much as black is the Maroczy bind with c4, where black frankly is not equalizing ever. White is just always a little bit better. Black has chances to make it bearable, of course. It's not a terribly bad opening, but it feels it puts off people from this opening, the accelerated dragon, me included actually. I wouldn't mind to play this as black, but with c4, nah, not so much. And in this game here, we see that with g6 here, white basically, well, if he wants to do anything, he has to go d4, and that's what Jobava did. Now we get the accelerated dragon. And yeah, but without c4 played, so the normal accelerated dragon, not the Maroczy bind. Jobava, however, now goes for something interesting. It feels that he was somewhat surprised, maybe, which is a bit, which is not clear why, because Vachier-Lagrave had played this before. But okay, it seems that he did not really have anything great up his sleeve here, and he played bishop to e2, which is not a bad setup in general. I'm sorry. The bishop e2 lines against almost any Sicilian are pretty solid. The only thing that really surprises is that here he actually castled. And I would have expected him to play maybe knight to b3 to take some control over the d5 square. Yeah, if black gets in d5 in one move, and this is what happened, castles d5, he usually equalizes without any effort. And this is what happened here. Vachier-Lagrave obviously playing, he's not playing for a draw, that's wrong, and I didn't even wanted to form that sentence. He plays the theoretically recommended move. It is the best move because it equalizes very comfortably, but it's also a move that basically says, okay, yeah, well, I'm fine with the draw. Because white can do the following. This here. Bishop c4. Bishop f3, sorry, queen c4. Takes, c3. And this is the kind of position where white really has to do something stupid to lose. It's just those bishops are very nicely anchored. This is a slight weakness. And black is active enough with his bishops. I mean, these bishops on e6 to keep it equal. But there's absolutely very little chance of something exciting happening. Yeah, we see that this was traded. Yeah, the c6 pawn was immediately traded. And, well, here, this is just really nothing happening. They sort of invented a repetition here and wrapped up the game. So very unexciting. A possibility is that Jobava simply was too disgusted with himself after the first round where he blundered away this endgame against Ivanchuk. Maybe he just wanted to have a day off, let's say, but sometimes it's not a bad idea if you feel like, okay, well, I totally screwed up the round before that. Let's just, yeah, get a fresh mind on the following day and not play a game today that costs any sort of energy. So probably not such a bad idea. Okay, the next one is Radjabov Ivanchuk. Radjabov played a relatively uneventful draw in round one, and Ivanchuk's game, there wasn't that much happening, to be honest, against Jobava, but then Jobava basically hit the self-destruction button and lost this by transposing to the king and pawn endgame. Yeah, this game actually, it was a really long game, but there was never something super exciting happening. The only thing that I would like to point out, which is not much, I admit it, is that they played this opening here, knight f3, g3, which I play quite a lot, this kind of lines, knight f3, g3. And Ivanchuk is playing now the move b5, which might look funny to some people, because, well, the early b-pawn pushes, especially if they had two squares, are sometimes frowned upon a little bit, like, let's say, the move 1b4, the Sokolsky opening, or, and now I'm not pronouncing that right, the orangutan. It's close. It's not that bad pronunciation. Well, this kind of thing, this is simply not a great move. But this case here is a little bit different. b5 here actually on move 2 is a very decent line. And the reason is because white has already basically committed to a fianchetto. The move b5 often is tricky, or b4 in the initial position, because an e-pawn move will attack this pawn. Like, well, this is ridiculous now, but this kind of move, it would attack the pawn. But with g3 already being played, the move b5 gains a little in strength, because, well, the bishop will fianchetto, and this means that this is not so much of a weakness. And, well, what is b5 doing? Well, it controls c4. That's an important, almost central square. Yeah, by definition, the center, those four. But c4 is a very important square, because you would like, very often, white would like to put a pawn on c4. And this is not easy now with the b pawn on b5. This is actually a really good line against knight f3, g3 if you happen to play knight f6. And you want to have something that is kind of middle of the road. It's not totally boring. There is some play in there. And on the other hand, you don't want to do something crazy. So it's a very good approach for a game to just play. in fact, I think that Ivanchuk, yeah, fairly normally. Here you can also argue the g6 is certainly okay, but you can also argue black can also play e6, e6 or c5. Those kind of moves, they are also fine. Like this. Yeah, now we are approaching a fairly symmetrical position, but black is losing a little bit of time there. Yeah, and this actually, I thought that white should maybe have a little something, but it turned out to be not that substantial. A little something because of the time loss. Yeah, like here, here, here. And on d7, it's also not that great. But it seems that the position is funny, yeah? Just goes back to get this knight developed. Yeah, and Ivanchuk was playing this relatively quickly. That's funny. And Radjabov spent ages. Didn't know the clock times when I looked at the games. Yeah, well, it actually, they traded some stuff. And here, well, white is a little bit better due to the space, but it's nothing super serious. And I don't think that something super exciting happened in this game. They traded. And I mean, it's probably always equalish.
Check.
This is at least what I gathered from the round reports. And I didn't look at it in such detail because it didn't
Check.
look very exciting. Yeah.
Check.
Here black actually,
Check.
this was funny. What did happen here? Rook
Check.
f2 is a funny move.
Check.
Yeah,
Check.
black actually got to this endgame a pawn up, but it is a draw. Yeah, with the white king being that active,
Check.
they probably...
Check.
Yeah, well, white got all the pawns. Yeah, I probably do this a little bit too quickly to really get something out of it, but I don't think it was a very, very exciting game. You probably won't feel very enlightened if I spend an hour on it, to be perfectly honest. Let's see what else. We have Wely Wojtaszek. Let's look at this game. This was, in fact, more interesting. I can tell you that much. What I also can tell you is I don't find my notes. Here they are. Okay. And Wely also playing knight f3, g3. Yeah, I always thought that those openings are a little bit underestimated. I play them for a while now. Not underestimated in a theoretical sense. They mostly lead to positions that are equalish. But what this setups often do, they keep many pieces on the board. So if you feel you want a long game and try to outplay the opponent in a long battle, it's not a bad idea. It's noteworthy that in some cases in chess history, those kind of slowish setups were chosen when a win was needed. The most famous example is the World Championship match 1987 in Seville, where Kasparov needed a win in the 24th, the final game, and he chose the Ratty opening. Not this move order, but it leads to something similar. Okay, well here Wojtaszek is playing something that I think is quite good. He just plays like it is a reversed opening. He just tries to take the center, and this is an important moment. White now absolutely has to play d4, like the Grunfeld reversed. If he's not doing that, something like castles, let's say, black will play e5 for the King's Indian reversed, or King's Indian attack in this case, and the King's Indian attack with white against this broad center is absolutely nothing. Just equal if you are lucky as white, let's say. The extra tempo is not really helping in any way. So if you want something, you rather play the Grunfeld reversed. And the best line is now actually what Wojtaszek played. Black is simply developing here like that. And now we, funny enough, have transposed into a Catalan opening. Yeah, this is normally arising from a Catalan move order. And here white has a wide choice of sharp moves. Wide choice is a bit much. You can play knight a3, knight e5, those kind of moves. Knight e5 actually is a funny little trap. I mean, okay, on that level, no problem. But some people tend to still take here. And after e3, they, yeah, make one of those very embarrassed faces. Yeah, after the knight moves, you're going to
check, check,
lose a big rook here in the corner. Yeah, well, queen a4 was played, which is a little bit more of a conventional way to do it. Yeah, black is gaining some space, but white is getting pretty good center. I didn't look up this line in a book. I mean, it's maybe in one of the Avrok books, but I didn't have the time to check it. The only thing that I know is that I really like Wely's opening position. Look, this kind of thing. Isn't this a good position for white? You have a good center. Black's structure is a little bit harmed already. I mean, it's not like a terrible structure, but long term the king might be a problem. And white, as mentioned, has a nice center. Yeah, d5 pushes and so on. I liked white's position in the opening, even if the computer is not seeing anything. I still thought that white is pretty okay. It is actually later that something interesting happens. I will go on a little bit. The real problem, really long term, is always that white has the better king position. With his castling bishop on g2, he's really safe, while it's not so clear where the black king goes. It's always tricky to play when you don't have a clear safe king position. And the game here ultimately opened up. You see? Yeah, knight coming back into the game. Yeah, now we've got a couple of trades. Yeah, and simply note this king, yeah. If let's say the pawn would be here, yeah, on g7, it's simply nothing is going on. Equal material, white has a d pawn, black has a b pawn. Yeah, you can argue maybe someone is slightly better or worse, but it's really not much going on. And here it might still be okay. The computer just claims equality, but this is not a very comfortable position to play for black. You always have to be alert that you're not allowing something on the king. And in fact, a couple of moves later, black actually made a mistake. We are going to see that f6, yeah. This is not a good square. Yeah, as white already tries to prove. King g7, h5. Clear intentions, but black can cover it. King g7 was probably not the best move, by the way. If we go back here, black probably had to do something else. And there's not that much that he can do. Probably f5, yeah, to block the queen g6 check. Yeah, but again, this is a loose king. This is an open king. I don't think that this is very comfortable, but he had to do that. Well, king g7 was played. Note that Wojciech had much more time on the clock than Wely. h5, bishop to e8, covering g6, rook a1. Yeah, angling for a quick entry of this rook. Rook d8, bishop h3, activating the bishop. That's a good move. And now black went queen to b6. Queen e7 was better. White is enjoying an advantage simply based on this bad king and the possibilities related to the d-pawn. But now queen b6 was played. This is in fact losing. It's quite funny. We will see. Bishop e6 is a strong move. Yeah, just getting this position right into this bishop right into the heart of black's position. And now it will be very, very tricky to defend. The bishop is participating in the attack. Black now played bishop h5. It's really the thing that white, the move that white is threatening is absolutely impossible to prevent. But Wely didn't play it. But now I understand better why he didn't play it. He didn't have much time on the clock. I was just looking at the game without knowing what the time situation was. And here, this is maybe an interesting situation for you to find a tactic if you want, if you have a little bit of time. Pause the video, try to find a tactic now, white to play and win. Yeah, white to play and win. And he wins with rook a6. That's a nice move. Rook sacrifice. If black takes it, then white enters.
Check.
Queen c7 check. King g6. And now just queen takes. And it was this position that had to be correctly assessed. You quickly see that white definitely has an attack, of course, with threatening queen g8 mate. Yeah, that's a full mate. And the thing is, black really has no defense, but it had to be assessed correctly beforehand. And well, when Wely didn't have much time on the clock, it finishes like that, by the way.
Check.
Check. And now bishop f7. That's the big point. Black can give this check and keep this bishop for the moment, but white simply has d6, and this pawn is this pawn is promoting. Yeah, after any move, white is just doing this. And we promote. Yeah, rook a6, a move that Van Wely definitely is capable of finding, but if you just have 40 something seconds, it's a tricky move to play, especially if we go back to the position here. Yeah, he went here, especially when you see that even without any fancy sacrifices, you definitely will have a good position. White still is for choice here. Rook c1, yeah, probably intending queen c7, but it's just far less forcing than what he could have had. Another idea is, of course, maybe to get the queen here or here, and then rook to c6. Yeah, those kind of ideas. White has still a tremendous compensation for the pawn. Bishop to e8, queen e4, h5, queen b4. Yeah, intending to invade here on e7. Queen d6, queen a5, king f8 back. Yeah, black is still on the ropes. King g6 was a better defense. Queen a7, bishop d7, and now again a nice move. Yeah, probably you can find it. White is a strong move now in rook c6. Yeah, not difficult actually. If black takes, oops,
checkmate.
We've got a mate coming. So black has to move the queen, and of course he did. Now rook c7. Yeah, it is a fantastic position. White is dominating completely. Black has to play king e8, not to lose material instantly. But yeah, it's in vain. White is just much better. And there were many ways actually to now in the next couple of moves maybe you win a little bit quicker. But what Van Wely did was always keeping a huge advantage. He won the b pawn. Black couldn't really do anything. He's basically forced to play those moves that he had.
Check.
Yeah, this pawn also got taken.
Check.
Yeah, and it's a queen endgame with an extra pawn. Important point is that black's pawns are also weak, so white has excellent winning chances in this endgame. Queen g4 was played, and now f3. Yeah, very important is that this is not a good idea. Oh wait, let me think about this. When I looked at it before, and I was thinking that this should be a draw, as black is approaching the pawn. But if we check it, like here, king d7, I have this move, right? Yeah, this is a win, right? This is a win. Why didn't he take the queen on g4? That's kind of curious.
Check.
This is just a win, right? And white is clearly winning. Why didn't he trade the queen? Interesting. Yeah, we didn't have much time, so maybe 1 minute something. Maybe he got irritated here. I mean, the thing is, even after what he played, he's winning. It's not like it wasn't. Like this is also winning. Van Wely's move. Now, but not this one. This was the problem. He should play f4 here. Queen moves. And d6, and white is winning this endgame very comfortably. Due to those both pawns being weak, white will win one of the pawns. But the king and pawn endgame was a really simple draw, simple win. Quite weird. But okay, 1 minute on the clock. That's tricky already. It's also a bit of a nerve problem, simply that you have to be, well, in this little time you have to keep your mental stability, that you don't kind of get irritated by things and so on. It's very important. And maybe he miscounted something or something like that. The thing is, he went here, and now this is all of a sudden very tricky. And I think actually probably a draw. Black entering there is a huge issue. They continued for quite a long while, but it seems that black now has this counterplay ideas.
Check. Check.
Yeah, tons of checks.
Check.
Yeah, white returned 1 pawn because he saw that he got h5, but
check.
This is not a win anymore.
Check.
In fact, it is often, it's a very good piece of advice maybe that I can give to you in end games with in queen end games. You really have to be cautious, because even because of the big power of the queen, you can easily do very stupid things and actually lose being a pawn up. I mean, this is not a, I mean,
check.
This was played. Let me just do one thing. I know it doesn't make much sense probably, but just want to show you something. Yeah, let's say a position like that. Yeah, black is threatening checkmate here. Yeah, and this is just one moment of not being alert, and you can actually lose. Yeah, here check. Here it's a draw, or if you want something like this, can also happen. Yeah, here
check.
This is a check actually. Okay, I was getting at a line check. Like this.
Check.
Where white is blundering. Yeah, you know, it's the queens are very tricky, so have to be cautious all of the time.
Check.
In the game, they made a couple of more checks and actually agreed to a draw here. Yeah, this is a drawn end game. Yeah, like always has to be ready for the opposition. Yeah, this distant opposition. Or this is the near opposition, the classic form of it. Yeah, really not really great here. Certainly how Wely must feel after the game. He had excellent winning chance and could have won on numerous occasions. The easiest probably the king and pawn endgame transformation. But as I mentioned yesterday, we saw in the game by Jobava against Ivanchuk, you have to think about those things if you go to a king and pawn endgame, and he didn't have much time, so he was probably not totally sure, and then selected to stay or just to keep this queen endgame, which would have won actually, but it wasn't that easy, it seems. Okay, the next game is where is it? My notes are completely untidy. This is Yifan with white, the women world champion, against Liren, his her country. What is the right name there? Country mate. Is this a word? Yeah, they're both from China. Let's get to this game. Where are we here? Here are we. Yep, da. Yifan with white against Liren. Let's see what happened. We got a Caruana, which Ding is playing quite often. I looked it up. I didn't know it. And we got a Panov attack. That's one of the, let's say, less fashionable ways to play against the Caruana. Nowadays, everybody plays the advanced variation. And to be perfectly honest, I think any real serious player let's say, master level and above should play the advance. It seems to be the most testing variation simply. But for developing players, I often recommend the Panov attack, this kind of line. It leads to open piece play and it's a very tactical variation in a way, because of those pieces all out. Yeah, see bishops open and so on. You will have tactical games quite often. Yeah, of course, Yifan, she's not a developing player. She will improve definitely. But it's not like, we're not talking about some junior player here. But she's playing the Panov simply because it's an interesting line, maybe as a surprise weapon. And I think probably she had exactly this line in mind that she played now. Ding now played bishop to e6. This is the... Yeah, there are more than one frequently played line. This is one of the better known ones. Yeah, here Yifan, she played an interesting sideline. That, however, is probably not that great objectively speaking. Maybe she wanted to, as mentioned, surprise Ding and play something less known. She played knight g to e2. It looks really a bit strange, this move, but the idea is to play knight to f4 and trying to expose that this bishop is actually on a funny square. Yeah, I should probably tell something about this bishop move. Isn't this strange looking? It is, but there was some pressure on the d5 pawn, and black is arguing that he does not want to play e6, which is not terrible, but he does not want to block the bishop. And well, you can hardly play something like that. This is just blundering a pawn. So this is actually, if you want, a preparation for a later fianchetto. And white really has to do something here also about the idea to sometimes just take on c4 in the correct circumstance, of course. Yeah, knight e2 is an interesting move. It seems that bishop e2 and a3 are currently regarded as most dangerous. a3 looks weird, but it anticipates move like queen a5 to be answered with b4. Probably those moves are also better. I think that knight e2 is really nothing much. I actually have played this myself with white when I played e4 on a rare occasion. I had prepared this line, but I made some mistakes in the preparation, and I rechecked it actually today, and knight e2 is really nothing for white. I'm a bit mystified what the idea was, to be honest, because, well, this is pretty straightforward, but this is how it went. And bishop c4 is one of the points of this line. The idea is that this here is not that convincing. I mean, black can play it, but it's not that great. Queen a4, check. Knight d7, long castles. This is the funny tactical point. Now intending rook d7. This is actually how my game went when I played this against the German FIDE master in 2002. Queen takes, bishop b5. Funny line, right?
Check.
It's really funny. But it seems that black is... yeah, this is what happened in my game. He actually found this over the board, which was a pretty good achievement. And f4 and so on seems to be a draw ultimately. I mean, really, I don't want to get into this, but it is something where black is sort of walking a tightrope, and maybe he holds it, but it's tricky. I actually lost the game with white. I blundered a couple of moves later. The thing is that, well, you don't have to do this. You don't have to take. You can also just trade here and play a6, which is exactly what Liren, what he did. And now it's kind of curious. What should white do? White has sacrificed a pawn. And what she did now is really leading to absolutely nothing. She took on e6, giving up the bishop pair and continuing like that. Maybe hoping that the extra pawn, I mean, this is probably not a totally wrong assumption that the extra pawn is not that useful, but it's definitely absolutely nothing for white. Yeah, I mean, white has no chances whatsoever to win. And we see that black is activating here step by step. Yeah, it takes a while because you have this kind of, yeah, this is not a very nicely coordinated position at the moment. And this is probably where Yifan, where she saw her chances, maybe trying to use this coordination problems. But I think Ding is playing this excellently. He played b6 now. That's a good move. Yeah, knight a6 is the first thing you think of. But look at this. This piece has no squares. b6 is covered, c7 is covered, b8 is covered. And you don't want to do that, yeah? After bishop g7, black will get his play coordinated. Maybe knight coming here or knight coming to d5. That's actually one problem. This double pawn is giving black some nice points for operations in the center. Yeah, well, she didn't take. She went to d3, knight d7. And maybe here, this, and I really don't like the next move. I mean, I'm not sure how good other moves are, but I'm pretty sure that after what she played, she went knight e5 check. That after that, white is really, really struggling to draw. The computer is also viewing it in that way. The reason why I think this is, if you look at this now, one problem is that long term, this is all on light squares here. Yeah, and this is a good structure for this bishop, this dark squared bishop. On the other hand, white has the tendency, it's not like all pawns are there, but many pawns, those two, are on dark squares. So there is the potential here for a bad bishop endgame. And in fact, this is what ultimately happened. Black activated, he gave a pawn back. And this is just a very, very comfortable endgame for black. He's got the better pawn structure in relation to the bishop, the good structure. e5 is a weak pawn. And black has ideas sometimes to invade with the king. He's just a little bit more active with the king. Black has excellent winning chances here. And he actually went on to win this fairly comfortably. I didn't look at this in much detail, to be honest. It looked very, very close to losing to me anyway. And maybe there is some great defensive idea, but I doubt it. I think black is probably really winning with some precision. Yeah, it's got a pawn and the more active position.
Check.
Yeah, we got down to a rook endgame.
Check.
Where c5 is falling. Check. And now the decisive factor is the b pawn, which is supported by the king. The black rook is cutting the white king off. They continued for a little more. Yeah, and here she resigned. Black is just moving the king to one of those and then will promote. Yeah, a game where it is a little bit tricky to understand the rationale behind the opening selection, because, well, it seems to be still the state of theory. But, well, I played it myself back then, because back then it was believed that here white maybe has a little something, but after a6 this does not seem to be the case. White definitely has some compensation. Maybe she shouldn't take on e6. I don't know. This is really... that's a very, as a friend of mine sometimes says, vegetarian move. It's not really showing that you are bloodthirsty. Okay, well, the second loss for the women world champion. Very bad start to this tournament with 2 losses. Of course, she's not the favorite in this event, but she played it in, I think, 2013 and really did a good job. So I'm still expecting her to score a couple of points. Okay, and the final game that we look at is Caruana, Fabiano Caruana with white, the world number 2, playing Ivan, and I'm trying this, Saric. Someone said I should pronounce it like that, or at least let me try to pronounce it like that. Saric. Okay, e4 by Fabiano as usual. He's doing this pretty reliably nowadays. And we got a closed Ruy Lopez, not the Berlin, thankfully. And as it happens, the other lines are more interesting than the Berlin, at least for the spectator. This is in fact the Zaitsev variation, characterized by rook e8 and bishop b7. This can also be played in a switched move order, bishop b7 and rook e8 first. This was actually the choice of Anatoly Karpov in his World Championship matches against Garry Kasparov. The line really, I still think, is pretty okay for black. But at the time, I must say that Karpov lost a ton of games with it. And I'm pretty sure that when he saw that Kramnik was basically completely diffusing Kasparov's wide serve in his London match, I think that Karpov really must have thought, oh wow, why didn't I come up with the idea to play the Berlin Wall? I guess if Karpov would have had this idea, he would have regained the title at some point in his matches against Kasparov. He always scored excellently with white against Kasparov, but he lost a ton of black games in the Ruy. Okay, well, let's see what happens. Bishop f8. The idea of black setup, by the way, this quick rook e8, bishop f8, bishop b7, the idea is actually that there is serious pressure on the e4 pawn, which is very clearly demonstrated by the fact that the standard Ruy regrouping knight f1 is actually a mistake, as black can take, and the e4 pawn is under fire. Yeah, so white cannot do that, and here he is at a crossroads. The most the most played move probably is the move a4, which is what Kasparov played most of the time against Karpov. I think it went h6 mostly, but I'm not completely sure. It's been a while since I looked at this. There's also a3 and all kinds of moves. The move that Caruana is playing is also very reliable, one d5. This does not look very logical, yeah, at first, putting the pawn on d5 when there is this bishop on this diagonal. The idea is, however, that if we look at it, black plays knight b8, can also go to e7. The idea is that this bishop at the moment is not doing that much, but white will get some play against this pawn on b5. Yeah, with c4, a4, and so on. Quite often, black, to make some sense of this bishop on b7, to make some sense of this bishop, will play c6, and then the bishop's diagonal will open up again. So it's not really a move that kills the bishop, it just transforms the position in a way that it probably will become useful later. Knight f1, knight bd7, knight 3 to h2. This looks kind of curious, but the idea is that if black plays c6, which is normal actually in this position, or let's say it is normal to play it quite often in this kind of form when this is inserted, that in this structure the knight on f6 will play a useful role in controlling d5, and knight h2 is played to often trade it with knight g4. However, Saric here played a different move. He didn't play knight c5, which is by far the main move. He played the move a5. However, this was something that could have been anticipated by Caruana, as Saric had played it before. I found a game in the database. Well, Caruana obviously didn't expect it. He played a4 here, spending 20 minutes. And I think, isn't this good? That they sometimes actually play some chess over the board. Very good. Okay, a4 makes sense. Yeah, you want to attack this weak queen side. Black pushed with b4, and now we got to this. At first I was thinking, wait, isn't this good for white? b4 looks like a somewhat weak pawn, and this is probably true, but it's not so easy to use. As we see then in the game, Black has gotten some activity with the knight, putting some pressure there. It's not so easy now for white to do something against the pawn. If he plays something like that, well, a4 is attacked, and black can also always play c6 and getting play against the center. Yeah, if we look at this, for example, the bishop on f6 now comes into play. Yeah, it is an interesting position here. Maybe white has a little something, but it's not yeah, nothing decisive by any means. Yeah, this queen side is still a little bit shaky, but I think Saric is not doing anything wrong here. It looks Saric, I'm sorry. Yeah, we have got 2 bishops against 2 knights. Funny situation. But still, from a structural point of view, white is certainly quite nice here. b4 is a weak pawn. But it's nothing yet very dramatic. Okay, interesting now. With f5, black is playing this in a very sharp manner, and he played it really quickly. Yeah? I'm not sure about this guy. I have seen some games of Saric, and I really think he's a good player, but I don't really know about his time management. Maybe he's playing quickly all the time, but he really played this kind of stuff here. To play this in two minutes, that's strong. Strong statement, because it's the kind of move that you don't come back from, you know. It's just like very committal. But okay, it seems to be still okay. Black now has sacrificed a pawn, but he's gotten these nice central pawns, active pawns. Knight e3. And now, exactly now, we get to the critical position of the game. There's just one critical position of this game, and this is exactly here. Now, the black player went queen b7, and he took some time for it, 5 minutes, and it really seems to be that this is the only serious mistake that he made in the game, and it's probably, yeah, costing him the whole game. It looks very unsuspicious, this move, nothing exciting, but the problem is the following. White plays this move, knight d3, yeah, getting this knight back into play, and this is now a big problem. This is hanging, and there's this threat, knight c5 e6, and both threats combined are exceptionally difficult to defend against. An additional problem is the following. He went rook e8, which at first looks quite good. If we consider this is possible, but not that decisive maybe. This is the problem, played by Caruana. Caruana is playing this game, again, without any serious mistake or inaccuracy. It's really good. Queen g4, attacking the bishop, and he decided now to take on e3, which is nothing that you love to do, but have a look at this. If you keep this, there's this coming, and also b4 hangs. I mean, this is also something to consider. After e4, it's not that clear, maybe. Something like this. The white has those strong pawns, but it's probably the other line is probably even more convincing. Yeah, he took on e3, and now a move that surprised me, but it's strong. He took with the pawn. Looks a bit strange to block the own rook, but taking with the pawn is strong. After that, e4, it's not that clear. While after, pawn takes, bishop d7 was played. But if black now plays e4, we see one nice difference. White can jump here. Black, well, somewhere. What do I have in my notes? Queen b8, that's probably not mattering much. Then white jumps here and goes back to d4. And now we see how nice it is to have the pawn there. This position is really flat out winning, yeah. What a fantastic knight on d4. It is safely protected by the e3 pawn. It protects f5, it protects b3, and well, it's just in the middle of the board like a rock. Fantastic. So this was really, e4 was not even trying to find counterplay, so he didn't do that. He played bishop to d7, queen b4. This one was falling, queen a8, Next move is somewhat remarkable, I think, because, well, if you look at this, white is 2 pawns up and probably will win with many, many moves. And still Caruana is playing the absolute best one. As it turns out, when you check it with the computer, it is the best one. He played g4. I would be reluctant to play that move, to be perfectly honest, to open up my king like that. It is really the case that there's nothing happening with the king. White has pieces around it. It's fairly safe, but still need to be very confident about your assessment of the situation to play the move g4. There is really nothing happening. White has everything under perfect control, so he made the right judgment. Still, it shows that he's really, really confident. Yeah, here black is completely busted. Yeah, you can count it, 3 pawns, and black has absolutely no idea what to do here to get counterplay. e4 is also falling. He tried this kind of desperado here, and here resigned the game. So we have a win here for Caruana, winning his second game in round 2. So 2 out of 2. Good start for him. We will see if he can repeat his performance of the Singfield Cup, where he won 7 games in a row, which is pretty much impossible. If he's doing that, I don't know. 7 wins is not on. I don't think that. I think this is possible. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the coverage of this round. I actually wanted to make it quicker, and I feel like I rushed through some of the games. It still got to a 1-hour video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm back tomorrow, I guess, with round 3. Thanks for watching.